Welcome to the Perceptive Content Information Session. My name is Erica Vance. I'm an Enterprise Content Management Analyst with UNT System IT Shared Services. And today we're going to talk about what is perceptive content, what are the costs associated, what's the project process. We're also going to be talking about the roles in perceptive content. Departments across UNT systems still have a lot of paper-driven processes. With paper, you're more than likely to have a loosely structured process that fails, a misunderstood business process, and paper to be in oftentimes unsecure locations. With all of this risk with paper, staff members often feel overwhelmed and unprepared on how to clean up and organize their documents. That's where perceptive content, aka ImageNow, comes in. Highland, the software vendor, provides the definition of perceptive content as a full enterprise content management and workflow suite used to handle all content types and put them in the proper context of an organization's process or need. Let's break this definition down. You can capture documents into the system. There are many ways of accomplishing this, and I will show you one of them later in the demo video. You can index documents and search for them later, and you can store multiple types of documents. At its most basic, it's a digital filing cabinet. At its most complex, you can have an automated workflow that can even integrate with third-party systems. Let's talk about the benefits of perceptive content. In addition to perceptive content being a university-approved content management system and has system support at no direct cost, the product itself offers many benefits to our users. Think about a house that you want to build from the ground up. First, there's structure. Structure will give your document indexed values so they're searchable. This also helps smooth out your business process. For example, what do you want to be searchable, and what data is important for your business process? Next is security. Paper records are not always secure and can be easily lost. Security with perceptive content gives the department the ability of who can see and manage their documents. Next is access. Documents are accessible as long as you're connected to a UNT network. This makes traveling easy and convenient, whether it's going across campus or across the system. Reliability. Paper documents by nature are not reliable. With perceptive content, service is almost always available to our customers, and documents can likely be restored from our servers. Department collaboration. Departments have been able to give you only access to documents other departments need for business process purposes. For example, transcripts are owned by enrollment management, but the advising offices have view-only access to transcripts. This helps significantly cut down time wasted on retrieving copies of transcripts and keeps business processes from slowing down. These benefits ultimately help our departments and colleges make better business decisions for the future and decreases the use of paper, copier ink, ink cartridges, and more. Who can use perceptive content? UNT System has an enterprise license, meaning any department or college within the UNT system can use perceptive content. What does perceptive content cost? To view documents, whether they be your own or another department's you have access to, is at no direct cost. Storing your documents on ITSS servers is also at no direct cost. Capturing your documents, however, has a price range at no direct cost to $10,500. That's a pretty big range, so let's talk about why that is. So now we're going to look at some minimums and maximums for these costs. Hardware doesn't mean you have to purchase a scanner, and that's why our hardware minimum is 0. If you have a low volume of records or you have electronic documents, you don't need a dedicated scanner. You can always use your multifunctional device or use the print feature, and these options would be free. However, if your department has visually complex records or a large volume of documents, you will likely need a dedicated scanner, and that's where our costs come in. If you do need a scanner, those range in cost from a few hundred to several $1,000s. However, most of our department scanners are in the $500 to $1,500 range. Again, it comes down to your department volume. So if you do need a dedicated scanner, there are 2 different license costs associated with that. There's the Capture Now license, which allows your scanner to send images directly into perceptive content. This is roughly $1,500. The first year of maintenance costs are included. After the first year, IT Shared Services picks up the cost. Then you have the image cleanup software. Not everyone needs this option. This will let you do things like adjust the brightness, the skew, or remove lines on a document. This is also roughly $1,500, depending on what software you select and your specific cleanup needs. Our last potential cost is an optional one. Some departments choose to contract with a vendor for routine scanner maintenance to help keep the scanner in good working order. That cost varies depending on the type of scanner you have and the vendor and maintenance plan you choose. I will now be walking you through the Perceptive Content demo. Welcome to Imaging Services Perceptive Content Demo. Today we're going to talk about Perceptive Content and just some of the benefits this software can have on your department or college. Today I'm going to show you how easy it is to capture, link, and search for a document in Perceptive Content. First, there's capture. This is where information is pulled into the system, and the whole process begins. There are a few ways to capture a document, but in this example, I will show you by importing a document from your desktop. Next is linking. Linking is where we assign metadata or index values so the image becomes a searchable document. With linking, we can easily pull data using your business application plan with no manual data entry required. In this example, we will be using EIS to help pull data for our index values. Once our documents are linked, they are now stored in Perceptive Content based on the kind of content it is and the index values it has been given. Searching for documents helps us find records. By using customized filters, you can search for any document based on its index values. In this example, we will be searching for documents by entering the ID number. With Perceptive Content, you can now view your documents electronically. The document is searchable and secure, and can be shareable if your business process allows. You'll be able to work smarter, faster, and hassle-free. And the content your department needs will be available whenever it's needed, wherever it's needed. How to start using Perceptive Content. Your department will contact the ITSS Business Relationship Managers, or BRMs, and they will have you fill out a demand intake form. Once your demand intake form is complete, the BRMs will send it forward to be reviewed by ITPP Governance Committee. These committees usually are staffed by executive-level folks from different business areas across the UNT system. These committees are responsible for approving or denying the project requests and for giving the approved requests a general priority in line with UNT's strategic values. Once approval and prioritization has been given, the BRMs will turn the demand over to Imaging Services. Imaging Services will then provide an estimate for when the project will likely be able to start. This is based on the availability of imaging services in the department, the scale of the project request, and the priority the project is given. When we reach the estimated start time, Imaging Services will likely be able to start the project process with your department. Let's talk about our project process. Initiation is the first part of the process. Imaging Services will put together a project charter and a services agreement. The charter gives an overview of the project scope and an estimated schedule. The Imaging Services Agreement will cover department and imaging services responsibilities and will be signed by the department head. Once the charter and service agreements are signed off on, we can move forward to the design phase. During the design phase, Imaging Services will meet with the department project team to figure out exactly what your imaging system needs to meet your project objectives. This is when we'll figure out things like your indexing scheme and security needs. Once we're clear on what is needed, Imaging Services will draft a design proposal for the department to vet and approve. This brings us to our delivery phase. This is when it usually starts to get exciting for departmental staff because you'll finally start to see the vision realized. Imaging Services will build the system out and have the departmental project team test it to make sure it actually does what you need it to. We can make small adjustments here if something was missed during the design phase. At user acceptance testing, the department will receive functional processing documentation and will need to provide end user training for the rest of the office staff that will be using the system. Once end user training is complete, we will move to Go Live, where your implementation will be available for use. Once your process is live, we move you into the final project phase, support. Imaging services will monitor the new process with you to make sure things are running smoothly. If anything goes wrong, you can contact us directly for help. Once your post-production support is complete, usually 2 to 4 weeks from our go-live date, your department and imaging services will complete some project closeout paperwork and transition you to our active customer support, where you'll use our ticketing system to report issues and request modifications. Imaging Services offers 3 separate tiers of service. Each come with its own set of benefits and customer responsibilities. We can see a range of benefits, starting with scanning consultation, planning, and licensing, to independent design by trained departmental leads. Now, with our customer benefits, there are also responsibilities for each tier. The more benefits you get, the more responsibilities for what you need to be able to do, in addition to more training from imaging services and more full-time employee hours to your imaging system. Let's talk about the roles for Perceptive content. We're going to talk about the key job functions for your imaging system, both technical and functional. First, there's imaging services. We're the support team for Perceptive content. Your network management team is also a crucial partner. They support all of your hardware, your computers and scanners, including software installation. The first and arguably most important functional role is the Perceptive content team lead. The team lead is the liaison between their department and imaging services. They are the functional expert of your imaging process. They're also first-tier support for your department. They're the person you can report problems or needs to with Perceptive content. This is who Imaging Services seeks authorization from to make changes to your system and will be responsible for training staff on your imaging business process. Next is Access Control Executive, or ACE. ACEs are responsible for the security of your Perceptive content system. Imaging Services follows the standard ACEs model within EIS. The third role on the functional side is your Records Management Representative, or RMR. RMRs are responsible for the retention schedule of your records, so knowing how long you have to keep them and making sure documents are disposed of accordingly. We've talked about the roles you will have. Let's talk about the roles you may have. Departments will determine how to staff their imaging job functions. This typically comes down to the size of the department and their usage of the system. Some large departments need a dedicated staff for scanning, linking, and processing documents. Small departments typically don't have dedicated staff as they serve other job functions. Rather, imaging services may be one of their many responsibilities. Here are 2 different examples of what your department structure could look like. In Department A, the RMR, team lead, and ACE are all on one line, but the team lead is a liaison between their department and imaging services. In Department B, the top-tier roles have been consolidated, but the team lead is a liaison, even though they're also the ACE role. Whether you're set up like Department A or Department B, as long as you have people in these roles, this helps imaging services support your department or college. We look forward to hearing from your department and how we can help improve your business process.